Manchester, England.
All right, Tokyo!
To the scenic shores of Chicago.
Are you ready?
I'm sorry, homie. We don't do no happy songs.
I don't know how to tell you this, but
That's right, this is Tapes You Leave Behind. I'm your host, Brian.
This is Emerald.
And today we're talking about more music. This time we're looking at another song.
Okay.
Do another bit of a line-by-line lyrical autopsy, though this time slightly less California, we're on to Ireland.
Oh.
Taking a gander at what may be kind of a magnum opus of Thin Lizzy, Róisín Dubh, or Black Rose, a rock legend, off of the album Black Rose, a rock legend.
Oh, wow. One of those.
Yes, it's the title track off of what some people consider to be the last great Thin Lizzy album. 1979, as I mentioned, is Black Rose, a rock legend. Is it a legend?
Is it the last good Lizzy album in your opinion?
I think it's the last solid all the way through, and I think a lot of Chinatown's still pretty good though. I think even their last album's got some really good stuff too, but this one is solid front to back. This one's also has a return for Thin Lizzy, but it's really the first time he's been on an album. Gary Moore, another Irish guitar legend.
Oh.
So a lot of power going into it. And with that, they created The Black Rose.
All right. Let's go for it.
So before we dive into the song itself, let's go over what is that? Did I even say it right? I'm not sure. I don't speak Irish. I have never been to Ireland. But Róisín Dubh, I think, is how you pronounce it, judging by listening to the song. It's actually the name of a old Irish song, though the song is not that song. Originally, Róisín Dubh, which is translated to Black Rose, or maybe Little Black Rose, was a political song masquerading as a love song. So it's real old, like 1500s Ireland time period.
Like Irish Rover songs?
I guess so. I mean, it's like a folk song. It'd
Yeah.
be like, just the generic townsfolk kind of singing, like soldiers or something, at a time when it was literally outlawed to have pride in Ireland. And so they had a song, Black Rose, Ireland, have a exception with the rose, about allegedly a lady, when it's really about the country itself. Now, that said, the name Róisín Dubh and kind of the target of the song is actually about a real woman. One Rose O'Neill. She was allegedly a dark-haired lass, hence why she was called the Black Rose.
Right.
Kind of high-level birth woman. Was married off at the age of 14. Luckily, she was married to another 14-year-old.
That is good.
Irish power wedding.
Better, I guess.
That didn't last more than a year.
Yeah, when you're married at 14,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah, he claimed she was barren.
God.
But then she'd end up in another
Yikes.
marriage later on that also wouldn't last. And then after that period, she's kind of disappeared from history books.
Oh.
Just to how old it was. But allegedly, she was very beautiful. And so it had inspired, both the story of this beautiful Irish figure of power to lead to kind of being a metaphor for the entire country.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it can be both.
Yeah, it's quite the song. I'd flip through it. It's obviously not in English. It's originally in Gaelic, Irish language.
Yeah.
But they do translations of it. I thought something kind of interesting of the last two lines of the song. That really shows that it's not actually about a woman. Every mountain and bog in Ireland will shake one day before she shall perish. My Róisín Dubh. To feel strength, she'll live on.
Well, that's uplifting, probably.
Yeah. I mean, some of the songs, it's a very love song. It starts out kind of almost a negative, oh, you Róisín Dubh, you dastardly thing, you, and then it switches back to I can't quit you.
Right.
Real thirsty in the song too. One part he's I'd kiss the young girl who would grant me her maidenhood and do deeds behind the Leos with my Róisín Dubh.
Oh.
And Leos is like an alleyway.
Juicy.
Yeah. Well, what does that do about Thin Lizzy? Well, as I said, here they are with a song named after an old Irish folk song. Are they covering it, as I already mentioned? No. But they are incorporating kind of the same idea, I think, into their song.
So it's not like a translation.
It's not a translation, no. It's sort of just doing the same thing, right? As I mentioned, it's a song that's about pride in Ireland, at a time we weren't allowed to have pride in Ireland. But, I mean, that's not outlawed here in the case of Thin Lizzy's case, but I think he's kind of doing the same thing with, the name and the subject matter of their version of Róisín Dubh.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that there were a lot of issues at the time, right? In the 70s and 80s.
Yes, very much so, yeah.
So it probably kind of was, that's the reason that they did it, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think another thing that didn't even occur to me until days after I'd fully scoped this episode out. So if you're not familiar, spoiler, Thin Lizzy is an Irish band fronted by a black guy.
Yep.
And the song's called Black Rose. I think some of the songs also about himself.
Interesting.
Because around the same time period, he's working on his first solo album, and there's a lot of that theme in that. So I wonder how much of it carried over into from those kinds of things. I'm kind of looking at that from perspective as well.
Right.
But without further ado, let's dive in to this epic, long Irish wonder. Let's take a look at the first few stanzas. Unlike with the Chili Pepper episode, it's not quite line by line, though. You have something to break down. A bit more stanza-y to give cross points.
Yeah, more more of a statement, a longer statement versus the Chili Peppers was really, each line was in and of itself a mystery. So.
Right. So we're setting the scene, both in our podcast and in the song. Tell me the legends of long ago, when the kings and queens would dance in the realm of the Black Rose. Play me the melodies I want to know, so I can teach my children, oh. So right off the bat, setting the scene, kings and queens of long time in the realm of the Black Rose, setting back that way in the past, like I mentioned, where the original folk song comes from.
Right, yeah.
Tell me those stories, sing me those songs about all the beautiful, things you hear as a child of the past glorious wonders of a land that old.
Wow. That's nice.
And then he immediately jumps into exactly that. Pray tell me the story of young Cuchulainn, how his eyes were dark, his expression sullen, and how he'd fight and always won, and how they cried when he was fallen.
Who's that?
Who is Cuchulainn?
Yeah.
Well, buckle up, because it is Irish folklore history time.
Okay.
So Cuchulainn, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right, but again, not super versed in pronunciation for Irish names. Was, a mythical character, so I can tell he's not real. But it's one of those sort of like a King Arthur where it kind of blends a little bit with the actual time period, locations. He was born named Setanta. As a youth, he would kill a guard dog of a revered smith in self-defense. That smith was named Cullen. And the smith said, well, now I don't have a guard dog. You're going to be my guard dog until we can get a new guard dog in here.
Wow.
And Cu means hound. So he's effectively named Hound of this guy. It was the label he took on.
Wow.
And then from there, he just kind of became this powerful mythological figure as he just trained and became better and would go off. And as it said, he'd win many, many battles, always triumphing over his rivals. Until, contrary to always winning, he did eventually lose. I mean, even the story was pretty crazy. So I was looking at this guy because I'd never really heard of him except in this song. And I thought that last final story was very fascinating. So he dies, right? Oh, they're all so sad. How does the mythical god figure almost die? And it involves kind of a giant conspiracy against him. Targeted by, led by one Queen Mev, which is another Irish folk figure, just considered a kind of a mythological, evil, powerful queen. Also considered a fertility goddess, but that's not really super important to this point.
But wait, was she real?
No.
Oh.
No, it's like King Arthur kind of stuff. It's all mythology, but it's like blended in with the actual landscape and stuff.
Right.
But effectively, she wanted him gone. And so she got together like a council of people who had been like family members of people who've been bested by Cuchulainn. And she included 3 witches who apparently between them only had 3 eyes.
Wow.
And they came up with a plan where the 3 witches are going to stand like the side of a riverbank. And they're going to be cooking food. And Cuchulainn's going to come along and see them, and they'll be like, try some of our food. And then he'll be like, all right. And then it was revealed to be dog meat, and he's like, I can't eat that. That's terrible to eat dog meat. It's like considered like a curse, effectively. Like, you can't eat dog meat. It's considered a curse in that time period of Ireland. And they're like, oh, but it's a worse curse to not take food offered to you. And he's like, oh no. So he had to eat the dog meat because it was the lesser of the 2 curses. But at the end of the day, it was still a curse, something to turn the gods away from him slightly. In which case, then they brought in like a whole bunch of soldiers with these enchanted lances, or like enchanted spears. And they chucked the first spear and like killed his horse. And then like the second spear like killed his cab driver.
Damn.
And then finally with the third one, they were able to slice him open.
That's crazy.
But Cuchulainn was a strong man. He wasn't going to just die right there. He actually crawled himself up to a standing stone and tied himself to it and then died. But the enemy soldiers were so afraid because he's like, holy cow, he got back up, that they waited 3 days before they went to like check on his very dead body tied to that stone.
He tied himself to the stone.
Yes, yeah, because he wanted to die on his feet.
Oh, a pride thing.
Yeah, and apparently the stone they reference and it's real. You can go see it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting because especially since that was like the
interesting.
story mentioned in the song. This is
very
death.
epic and sounds like a strong story of Irish history.
Yeah. To which the next one says, "Oh, tell me the story of the queen of this land and how her sons died at her own hand. And how fools obey commands. Oh, tell me the legends of long ago." So next story time. So Queen, again, spoilerish alert, I couldn't really even find Irish queens ever. That said, there were 2 that came up. One of them I already mentioned, Queen Mev.
Yeah.
Who maybe is the one he's talking about here. Now, spoiler, I think actually in this line he's referring to Queen of this land as in Ireland itself. I don't think this is any particular one person. I think him saying, tell me the story of the queen of this land and how her sons died at her own hand is actually just referencing Irish people.
Oh.
The fools obey commands. But that said, Queen Mev is, as I said, like kind of considered sort of a villainy-ish character in a lot of the folklore.
Yeah.
And she had 7 sons.
Did she kill him?
See, that's the thing, right? I found some people in forums mention that. Now, I read through a ton of Queen Meb folklore on various Irish hosted websites. Some was like kind of reading the Bible almost in like old-timey like stories and stuff, but I couldn't find this particular story about her actually like killing her sons.
Maybe it's also like in reference, like maybe she caused
Problems.
some sort of natural disaster that killed Irish
Maybe.
people.
Now I did find stories about her sons. Which eventually she had 7 of them.
That's a lot.
And she really hated Cuchulainn, and she was told by like a fortune teller or kind of druid guy that the person who will kill Cuchulainn will be named Maine. She's like, well, none of my sons are named Maine. I need to change that. And so she renamed all of her sons the same name.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Other interesting things about this lady, I noticed, as I mentioned earlier, she's a fertility goddess, and there's like multiple cities around Ireland named after her. Mm-hmm. Some of them are like named after like her body parts, like Vulva of Maeve is like a straight up town.
That's incredible.
They also had a story about like her going after like cattle as like kind of a battle sort of thing, where all of her men are like crossing over, into battle, and then are like cursed and strucken down with menstrual cramps and unable to fight. and then she goes out there, because she's hunting down Cuchulainn, And she's like, "Oh, get him!" And then she goes down, and she's like, "Oh, I have cramps. I can't fight."
Everybody.
And then Cuchulain's gonna like, kill her, and he's like, "I can't kill her. She's menstruating right now," and like picks her up and carries her like to safety on like his back.
What the hell?
Yeah, wild.
That is wild.
But I mentioned, so there are no actual Irish queens, definitely, that weren't killing their own sons. But I did find a second Irish queen that I felt like we should maybe talk about, and that would be Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen.
Oh,
this is from like the mid 1500s. I think I said earlier that the Black Rose lady was from the mid 1500s. I think she may have been from the 500s.
Wow. Long time ago.
But anywho, Grace O'Malley was, again, this is a time when Ireland was sort of under, parts of it under control by other people. And this lady kind of rose to power and effectively was like just a strong controller of like seaways and things like that. And she had like 3 sons, but she didn't seem to kill any of them. She actually went and like saved them and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, it talked about how she went and met the Queen of England, Lizzy the First. And Lizzy was, like, really impressed with Grace O'Malley. Like, whoa, another powerful woman.
Right, yeah.
And it's, like, unheard of. Like, she went in, like, talked about, like, the Queen's all, fancy and stuff. And then here's Grace O'Malley all not dressed up and, well, pirate queenie.
Yeah, I'm curious what she looked like.
Yeah. There's drawings, but it's a little old.
Right,
You're gonna
yeah.
get sort of artistic
There's no
representation. But yeah, again, I couldn't find any story for killing her sons. So I think this one, again, is a metaphor where queen in this case is indeed just the Ireland itself.
Right.
If this wasn't dropped in enough references to other stuff, this next set of lines is the first usherance in of... Now, I said that this song isn't a cover of Róisín Dubh, the Irish folk song. Mm-hmm. But it does feature interpolations of a lot of Irish folk songs.
Okay, so
and
it's like an amalgamation.
Yeah, so after that song, we move into some references here. Where the mountains of morn come down to the sea, will she no come back to me? Will she no come back to me? The mountains of morn are in Northern Ireland, in the County Down. This is specifically a reference to an old folk song called The Mountains of Morn by Percy French that came out in about 1850. That's a satirical song about the number of Irish immigrants around the world. Here, like talking about going back to Ireland.
Right, yeah.
Now, another fun fact for anybody, in the Decemberists, earlier band of Colin Malloy's Tarkio actually has a cover of Mountains of Morn, the Irish folk song.
Interesting.
So I was reading it and I was like, I feel like I've heard this before. Like, I've heard these words.
That's funny. I could totally see that, though.
Yeah. And he sort of continues that along. It says, so I'll wait for the wild... sorry, this is out of The Mountains of Morn. I mentioned kind of the satirical, not there thing that he sort of referenced there of will she no come back to me. This is actually out of the folk song. So I'll wait for the wild rose that's waiting for me in the place where the dark morn sweeps down to the sea. And that's sort of what he was paraphrasing there of when the mountains of morn sweep into the sea.
Pretty close.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Like, instead of like mountains that go through Ireland and go all the way to the coast.
Wow, sounds pretty.
Next, he jumps into 2 more folk songs in the next set of lines. Oh, Shenandoah, I hear you calling. Far away, you rollin' river. Roll down the mountainside. Oh, down on down. Go, lassie, go. So now this is an interesting one. You know anything about the Shenandoah?
No.
Not in Ireland. That's in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually that's an American folk song.
Oh.
They just put in there, Oh Shenandoah. But it is a very popular nautical song, and it's very popular in Ireland. Like, if you look up, there's a lot of like folk Irish singers who have covered it.
Yeah.
And I think because of its strong connection to water, nature, and then just sort of the pattern of the song kind of shifted back to there.
Do we know? Maybe it was made by Irish immigrants.
I mean, that could be singing about the beautiful Shenandoah River.
Yeah.
I like to think because it's just fun sea shanty of the time.
It also kind of sounds Irish.
Yeah.
Shenandoah.
Very much so. Maybe that's why it's so popular there.
Yeah.
And then at the end, as you heard, it said, "Go, lassie, go."
Yeah.
Starting to quote is from Wild Mountain Thyme, which is an actual Irish folk song. As I mentioned, Tarkio covering Mountains of Mourne earlier. The Byrds have a good cover of Wild Mountain Thyme.
Oh.
So if you're looking for kind of a more contemporary take on folk music, there's a good one there.
Contemporary from 50 years ago.
Yeah. So I know that we talked about this being a lyrical breakdown, but it would be really disservice to the song to not talk about what happens right here before the lyrics come back, and that's like the absolutely insane 2+ minutes of soloing and just kind of guitar riff trade off that happens here.
Yeah.
In I don't even know, 5-part guitar solo that also features more folk songs. Like some of the bits of the solo are, Danny Boy, another track called Mason's Apron.
Wow.
That they kind of interpolate into it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Go check it out. It's incredible. And I think it really helps you kind of grasp what's happening in this song. They said it's an epic. It truly is. And a lot of it has to do not with the lyrics, but more to do with the guitar work.
Yeah.
But
right.
As we move on, this is definitely a backloaded track of Irish references. Whereas the beginning, he's talking about the folklore of old. He's about to go into just everything he's loved that's ever came out of Ireland.
Okay.
So as the solo winds down, gets a little more mellow, as he kind of starts rephrasing the beginning again. "Oh, tell me the legends of long ago, when the kings and queens would dance in the realm of the Black Rose. Play me the melodies so I might know, so I can tell my children, oh." Remember, that's the beginning of
first.
it's the beginning again. Again, talking about kind of tell me the songs so I can pass them on, just like they were probably passed on to him. "My Róisín Dubh is my one and only true love. It was a joy that Joyce brought to me." This is your first direct reference to somebody real in this. Well, I guess other than the Black Rose being a real person, but
Right.
Joyce,
Yeah.
James Joyce, Irish novelist, writer of Ulysses,
Oh.
Finnegan's Wake, and The Dubliners.
I am not a great reader, so I've never read
I have
those,
never
but
read
I've
any of
heard
these.
them.
They are considered some of the greatest literary works of all time.
Yeah. Right.
Apparently, Finnegan's Wake took 17 years to write.
Wow.
And is considered one of, if not the hardest novel to read.
Wow.
Because he writes in a fake language.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
It's in English, but it's
It's like a old English or something.
No,
it's like
he's made it
English
up
words.
himself.
I know that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like English words, but just written in a way that's not.
Right, it's not normal. It's like weird sounds, and maybe if you're reading it out loud, you can kind of get what he's getting at.
So it's not even English words?
No, it is English, but it's not written. And some of them aren't words. They'll be conjunctions of words to make things, and
Interesting.
just sort of its own thing. It's interesting to read reviews of what was Joyce doing? He's crazy. At the time, this is garbage.
I mean, it took him 17 years?
Yeah. Some people consider Ulysses, I mentioned there, also to be considered a game changer of the novel genre.
Yeah.
A lot of stream of consciousness writing in there that there wasn't anything like it before that.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Which is probably why he gets the first nod in the song of notable Irish people he lists through. So after his first line about joy that Joyce brought him, while William Butler waits.
I still don't know.
William Butler Yeats. He's making a pun there, which he'll make quite a few. He's a poet. Massive influence on the coming 20th century. Kind of a trendsetter. Turn to for a lot of opinions. Also, interestingly, an occultist.
Ooh.
Member of the Golden Dawn.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, all
I know
types of
that.
weird, crazy occultism.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Especially, considering Ireland has kind of their own, ancient religion, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so after Yeats, he says, and Oscar, he's going wild. Which one would that be? Oh, it's Oscar Wilde. Not much. There's nothing hidden in that one.
Yeah.
Again, another author, another Irish author. Picture of Dorian Gray.
I didn't know he was Irish.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought
What
he
do
was
you know
American.
about him?
What do I know about him?
Yeah.
That's pretty much
That's
it.
it?
He wrote books.
Yeah. Dorian Gray, horror novel, it's considered.
Yeah.
Where a man, anything that bad happens to him just happens to the painting instead. Oscar Wilde's also like kind of a wordsmith. He was very good with quips, a lot of quotes, the kind of stuff that they'd turn to in like printed novels of like him responding to things, or him like tearing down other bits of culture. He was also very flamboyant, and famously arrested for being homosexual.
Leave him alone.
He's quite the epic dude. Like pictures of him in his like massive like fur coats. He definitely looks like somebody that would just be a modern celebrity by today's standards.
You know what? I think I get him mixed up with Ernest Hemingway. I think we had this conversation, maybe even on the podcast before.
So that was your slander against Hemingway, because you thought he was Oscar Wilde?
I thought he was Oscar, because I thought he was gay. And then when you mentioned Oscar Wilde, I immediately pictured Cats, which is also Ernest Hemingway thing, isn't it?
I didn't mention Oscar Wilde having any cats.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I totally swapped them in my brain, where I think that Ernest Hemingway is a flamboyant gay man, and Oscar Wilde likes cats and lives in a cabin, and that's just not true. So, but anyways, yes, very famous writer who is Irish.
Yeah, get ready for that, because sure, Brendan, where have you behan? Another pun, this time for Brendan Behan, who you'll never guess, Irish poet and playwright who died at the age of 41 in 1964 from, not to be racist, alcoholism.
I mean...
he was a very large man, wrote plays that were quite popular. And he's another one that seems to almost be just as famous for just kind of being... there. Like he knew the right people, and when his plays became like famous, like the actors and stuff seemed to enjoy him. Though he also seemed to be like a massive pain in the butt, like when he showed up, like get kicked out of places after too long if he's hanging out there. But he's also the only one I mentioned like his Wikipedia article, which is a lot about his like problems with alcoholism and like his crazy drinking habits. Which, must have been pretty crazy when the Pogues wrote a song about his drinking problems and called it Streams of Whiskey.
That's about him?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I am going, where streams of whiskey are flowing.
I thought that was just like
I thought that was about Shane.
Yeah, I thought that was just like their theme song.
Yeah, no, it's about this guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So next up he says, looking for a girl with green eyes. So if you haven't listened to this song, which you really should, if you're listening to this and have made it this far, each of these lines is sort of the outro of the song. For the last like minute and a half, he just sort of shows like one line at a time, and then has kind of a decent pause before saying the next one. So it's not just me chopping up a line, chopping up a line. Each of these lines is delivered kind of in a
short.
Look at this line and think about it for a second.
Right.
He says, looking for a girl with green eyes. Okay. Now, this is sort of a tricky one, because this could just be Ireland. Yeah. They're just saying Irish women. There seems to be a higher percentage of green-eyed ladies there than
not to
the
be
rest
that
of the world.
American, but I have a pretty high percentage of Irish. Shout out County Mayo. And I have green eyes. Mm-hmm. And also, my name is Emerald. So... Emerald, should I say my middle name?
No.
Okay, I won't. But anyways, lots of Irish references in my life.
Yeah, but I did find this is a British movie based on an Irish novel called The Lonely Girl.
Okay.
The Girl with Green Eyes that came out in the 60s, and so I would imagine he might just be referencing that due to the time it came out in, its seemingly popularity based on an Irish novel.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that is.
I think it's too much on the nose. For the record, it's a story about young ladies going out and discovering men, most of which who are a lot older than them.
Ooh.
Written by a woman, though. Yeah. A trilogy of books.
Oh.
Yeah. Next line. My dark Rosaline is my only Colleen.
2 names.
2 names. Rosaline, referencing back to the Róisín Dubh earlier. Rosie. Colleen is an Irish name. Though similar to kind of other places in the world, Colleen is such a common name, it can just mean girl.
Really?
Yeah, so in this case, he's saying my Rosaline is my only Colleen. She's my only lady.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
Just like in Australia.
Yeah. Like Sheila. Yeah, exactly. Except Colleen.
Huh.
That Georgie knows best. Georgie Best. Yeah, he definitely doesn't make it hard to figure out who he's talking about when he's talking about specific people. George Best was an Irish footballer, considered one of the best to ever do it, if not literally the best Irish national player. Also, fun fact, for statesides, he did come and play in the States later in his career.
Oh, really?
Playing for a team called the LA Aztecs, as well as the San Jose Earthquakes.
Oh, so like in the 80s?
Yeah, pre-MLS, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Another one who career's a little shorter due to his alcohol problems.
You know, it's a stereotype, but sometimes the stereotype is right.
But Van is the man.
Oh, I know this one.
You know this one?
It's Van Morrison.
It is indeed Van Morrison, singer of Brown Eyed Girl, Moondance.
Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that man.
Irish singer.
Yep.
Notably a massive pain in the ass, I've heard.
I believe it.
I've heard that, yeah.
I believe it.
Also, there's some fun stories about him, like, owing money to the mob and stuff like that in, like, the 60s and, like, having to do, like, contractual obligation. Now, he has a lot of fascinating stories. He might be his own episode down the line. Moving on to the next line, he goes from just mentioning people to going back in time a bit darker. Starvation once again.
Potato famine.
Potato famine. The Great Famine,
God.
a.k.a. the Potato Famine, started in 1885. That resulted in a death count of over 1 million people.
Yeah. That's how my ancestors got here.
And
Did
just
you know that?
as many people left Ireland as died. At the start of that in 1885, the population of Ireland was 8.5 million people. And by 1901, there's only 4.4 million people left in Ireland.
Oh my God. Literally half.
Literally, like, half of people either left or died.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that is why so many Americans say that they're Irish, right?
Because they are.
They got a little Irish in us.
Yeah.
And, that perfectly lines up with the expansion into the West, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and it is very, very sad. Potato famine.
Terrible. Then you change that up. Drinking whiskey in the jarro.
That's their own song.
Well,
That's
it's a folk Irish song,
Yeah.
but yes, as you've alluded to, they have covered this song before. Kind of pointed as one of the first songs of what would become like the Thin Lizzy sound.
Yeah.
Early single of theirs. If you've not heard it, go look it up.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Metallica
covered their version of it. Yeah. Singe's Playboy of the Western World.
What's that first word?
I think it's pronounced Singe. It's a guy's name.
Oh, okay.
So, as I said, Lynott is no Billy Joel. He's sort of doing almost a We Didn't Start the Fire thing here at the second half of the song.
Wait, it's Lynott?
Yes.
Oh, I always thought it was Lynette.
No.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. Billy Joel, he is very
This is
much.
not in order by any means. But, he's doing his best. He's getting in his references.
He's trying to pull them through. Although it's before We Didn't Start the Fire.
It is technically out before We Didn't Start the Fire, yeah. Playboy of the Western World is a play from 1907 written by one John Millington Singe, maybe just Sign, I don't really know. About a man who ran away from his farm after allegedly killing his father. And then he just kind of ends up in a bar in another town, kind of just hanging out there, meeting women. Women fall for him. And then in the end, he ends up with none of them.
Okay.
It allegedly had quite the impact on people. Like, it led to riots in Ireland, outside of the thing.
Wow.
People were like, this is poorly representing us. Or just too much excitement. Like, these ladies in this plays are hussies.
Oh.
Like all types of crazy stuff. Like it was like total like weeks of chaos.
Huh.
Apparently when it even came to the States, it had the same sort of backlash.
What year?
1907.
Oh, okay. They were a little more conservative back then, one might say. But still, that's wild.
I want to say it was William Butler. I saw like talking about the protesting outside the plays, being like, "Is this what you want to be remembered as, you fools?" or something like that. Somebody else I remember seeing like them having a quote about this, like the protests and things like that, and just kind of feeling embarrassed. But this play must have had quite the impact, I think, on Lynott, as he would name the album that came out around the same time period as I mentioned Whiskey in the Jar earlier, Vagabonds of the Western World.
Oh, okay.
I think that's too much of a coincidence to like just not be, yeah.
Very cool.
As Shaw, Sean, I was born and reared there.
As what?
As Shaw,
Okay.
Sean, I was born and raised there. Now, Shaw, I found pretty easy. That is George Bernard Shaw. He's another Irish playwright.
Okay.
Sean, on the other hand, I have no idea. Like, that's like John. That's an extraordinarily common Irish first name. And I have no idea if he's just saying that, similar to Colleen earlier, to just be something.
Just a boy.
Yeah.
He was a boy raised there. Or, yeah, maybe it's like another playwright.
And maybe slightly more fun is the fact that he's not actually born in Ireland.
Really?
Phil Lynott was born in England. He would
British?
Well, no, he is Irish. He had an Irish mom, like no father. And
But
then his mom ended up sending him back to his grandparents.
In England? Or in Ireland?
Yeah, in Ireland.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a bit of a fib there about being born in Ireland in that line.
Liar!
And then finally we get down to the last line of the song. Where the mountains of morn come down to the sea, it is such a long, long way from Tipperary. Now, I mentioned the Mountains of Morn earlier.
Yeah.
Talking about a song about people who have left Ireland and are thinking back to how great it was there. It's a long, long way from Tipperary is a World War I marching song about the same sort of thing, about Irishmen in London talking about how long it is to walk back to Tipperary in Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like a homesick type situation, or literally it's just a long way from home?
It's a long way from home. It's a homesick thing. Like I'm off fighting a war somewhere, stuck in London, town, away from my beautiful Tipperary.
Colleen.
Yeah, and that's how the song ends.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Has a lot of like you said, references to Ireland and
I
pays respects.
I think the direct references to the folklore and like the older folk songs work a lot better than sort of the shoved in name puns.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because obviously you have to kind of dig to understand them. But maybe back then it wasn't.
That's true. Like you don't have a quick access, so if he's not making it super clear.
Yeah, for us, it's like,
who knows?
I have no idea. But maybe if you lived in Ireland or around in the UK somewhere, maybe you'd catch those references a little easier.
Exactly. Yeah, and I like that last one because it really sums it up, and I think it has a good feel of like where the mountains of Mourne come out of the scene is such a long, long way from Tipperary. Mixing both the folk songs together, kind of having that. Is he talking about like being away from Ireland? With the fact that so much of the Ireland that he talks about is in the past, he's talking about that the Ireland that he likes doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And, like, if I recall correctly, the song kind of fades out, and it almost sounds like he's obviously getting further and further away.
He's drifting away, yeah.
Yeah, very nice artistic addition to that.
Very much so. And that's all the lines in the song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song.
I really like it. I think that Phil's a great songwriter, obviously. And, I think that he definitely paid respects to his culture and the people that he looks up to.
Yeah, he must read a lot.
Yeah, no kidding.
And those are all like novelists, more or less, or playwrights. It's all very...
Or poets.
Yeah. And one soccer player.
And one soccer player. But man, that soccer player was on fire.
He was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. I couldn't really find any quotes from him talking about the song. It's just one of those things where it's sort of more difficult. I think being older, maybe like some old, enemies or something might have an interview. I couldn't find anything like online. Also, I don't think it's a single off the album, as it's like 7.5 minutes long.
Which is interesting, right? Because the album's
named after it. Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe there's a short version.
It's another one where on like live albums and stuff, like they tend to cut a lot of the second half off of it. Mm-hmm. Like we're just rattling off the people. Like if you listen to like a lot of live stuff, they just kind of wrap the song up instead.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
it's either that or they would have to, jam it out for.
That's true.
8 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a quick trip through some Irish folklore, some important Irish figures.
Very interesting. Now I want to go read about the mythology of Ireland.
It's fun. I told you, I found like they were probably hosted by like the Irish government, like websites full of stories about cow battles and magical lances.
Sounds wonderful.
They had some cool icons like ravens sitting on stones. It was kind of neat. It felt old. It felt old internet, that's for sure. Like it was definitely like text on a page.
Right, yeah.
But, where better to get your source from?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was another lyrical autopsy. Let us know in the comments what you might want us to dive into next time. I have some ideas. I'm not going to tell them, though, but I got some stuff cooking. Yeah.
You're keeping them under lock?
Yeah. Keeping them a little secret.
I can't wait.
Can't wait. All righty. Catch you next time.
Bye.